Today, 80 years ago, America dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima, hoping it would end the war with Japan. 3 days later, dropped another on Nagasaki, and 6 days later, Japan finally did surrender. About 140,000 people died just in Hiroshima, so I can certainly understand the grief at the ceremony at that city today. 50,000 people there, and lots of delegates from around the world, 100 countries and regions, I'm told. But then the Japanese Prime Minister at that ceremony called for an end to nuclear weapons.
Leading the international community's efforts for a world without nuclear weapons while adhering to the 3 non-nuclear principles is the mission of Japan, which is the only country that has been exposed to atomic bomb explosives.
I'm thinking, wait on here. I think it's a little too easy, too glib now, too common, to turn Hiroshima into an indictment of America and of nuclear weapons. Now, first of all, of course, no bomb would have been dropped on Japan had that country not started a needless and barbaric war that cost millions and millions of lives. Second, America dropped that bomb hoping to save the lives of its soldiers who were dying in their thousands fighting fanatical Japanese soldiers and airmen who were actually launching even kamikaze attacks on American ships. In fact, cutting the war short also saved hundreds of thousands of Japanese lives and possibly the lives of many of the 300,000 Allied prisoners of war. Thirdly, of course, the nuclear bomb. Yes, it is an awful weapon. Awful. But America's firebombing of Japanese cities killed many more people. 60 Japanese cities were largely burned down before those bombs were dropped. And just one raid on Tokyo killed 100,000 people. So what exactly is the difference here? Different weapons, but still dead people. And lastly, since the bombing of Hiroshima and Tokyo and Nagasaki, the fear of the atomic bomb has helped stop another world war for 80 years now and counting. And I have to ask how many lives that has saved. Joining me is Rowan Dean, Editor-in-Chief of The Spectator Australia, host of Outsiders every Sunday at 9 a.m. and host of his own show on Fridays at 7 p.m. Rowan, what a busy man you are. But listen, it might not have actually, to be frank, to be honest, it may not have been those bombs, or no, not those bombs alone that stopped the war, because Russia declared war on Japan 2 days after Hiroshima, and that was actually quite serious. And a year after the war, the Strategic Bombing Survey figured that Japan would have had to surrender within another 4 months because it was running out of everything. But that's being wise after the event. What do you make of the dropping of the bomb?
Andrew, I thought you summed up the arguments very perfectly. The one thing that you didn't mention is that probably what drove the Emperor of Japan to surrender was, yes, the number of people killed and the horror, but above all was the recognition that Japan could not possibly win, despite all the barbarity, despite the disgraceful attack on Pearl Harbor, the surprise attack, the treatment of the POWs, the most grotesque and evil perpetrations upon Australians, Americans, and others. The Emperor of Japan recognized that the overwhelming technological superiority of America meant they could never, ever win. And it was that realization, you can never, ever win. Doesn't matter how barbaric we are towards you, you have the superior technology to defeat us. That's what ended the war. That's what ended the Second World War in terms of the Pacific. Now, the morality is very, very clear. If somebody attacks you, you have a right to self-defense. Equally, if you have superior technology and someone is stupid enough to take you on, and you recognize that you have a choice of either, as you mentioned, Andrew, millions or hundreds of thousands of troops, Western Allied troops, would have died in any kind of ground invasion of Japan. The Japanese themselves, suicide, the culture of kamikaze, the myths, and many allies were, many Japanese would not have known, would have believed the emperor's propaganda that they were up against some kind of devils or whatever. So the ability to finish the war with technology to save lives was absolutely critical. Now, Andrew, there are very, very strong parallels, and I don't know if you want to talk about them, but with what is happening in Gaza at the moment.
Spot on. Spot on. Absolutely, Rowan. You are so correct. I mean, if you start a war, you can't start complaining if you're getting killed by people hitting back, fighting for their existence. I must say, you know, Harry Truman, the US president who dropped the bomb, said, oh, we would have saved the lives there of 250,000 US servicemen. In fact, the army people were saying it'd be more like 40 to 50,000, but still the argument exists.